Hi everyone, I'm Kathy Hazel Adams. Thank you for being here today. So today I want to talk with you about a couple of things that have been coming up in my morning meditations. Lots has been coming up, I'm sure, for you as well in your meditations. Lots of insights, lots of upgrades, lots of sort of revelations and huge awarenesses and expansions and understandings. We're all going through that. I want to talk with you though about a couple of specific things. First of all, the Lion's Gate portal energy that is open right now. We'll talk about that in a minute and what that means to us and how we can really maximize it at this time of true ascension for every individual, for the species, for the planet, for the galaxy, actually for our universe. This is a particularly powerful Lion's Gate portal, potent. And the other thing I would like to talk with you about is the idea of accepting or receiving the abundance from the universe that is available to you. How that is not actually a passive thing. We'll talk about this. It's an actual action. So before I go on, as always, if you find the video helpful, please remember to click like, subscribe, share the video with your friends, share your thoughts, your comments, your questions. Whatever you type into that comment section, first of all, I read everyone and I answer everyone, but other people read those and are helped by what you asked and thought, and they are helped by how I answer, etc. So please do continue to leave your comments and questions. They're wonderful. So first of all, let's talk about maybe the Lion's Gate portal. We'll touch a little bit on the astrology. I am not an astrologer. This is not going to be an astrology update per se, but I know some of the big things going on and I know how they're showing up in our experience in the world, across the globe and locally. And so we'll take a look at that a little bit, and the Lion's Gate portal specifically, which has to do with 8. I think most of you know this, but August 8th, 8/8, is the Lion's Gate portal. And it's called Lion's Gate because Leo is the astrological sign in the heavens. And this is the time of Leo. If you're born right now, you're a Leo, of course. And Leo, amongst many other things, is the sign of real just self-expression and confidence. Like, this is who I am. This is my creativity. I'm going to roar, sing out and share who and what I am with complete confidence. So it's a real owning yourself and sharing yourself in the world. So it has a lot to do with creativity. People who are Leos or who have strong Leo in their charts tend to be out there where we can see them. They're presenting who and what they are. I think Madonna, for instance, is a Leo. So the reason it's called Lion's Gate is, of course, first of all, the constellation Leo is in the night sky, and the way it's positioned in line with a star, a very important star, and I'm not sure which one. I'll put it up here in a bubble on the screen. But it's an important star. It may be Sirius. I'm not sure. If you know more about this, please share in the comments and clarify. But it's positioned so that the Leo constellation is open, and this star, there's like a pathway of consciousness energy to do with this star and the position of the constellation Leo. So the thing is that, again, it's 8/8. And the portal is said to be open really from the last couple of days of July through August 12th, and 8/8, August 8th, being sort of the apex of that. And so that's what I want to talk with you about. This particular portal, as I said in the introduction, is a particularly powerful opportunity for us to go in even more leaps and bounds is in our upgrades, our updates of consciousness, our expansion and rising into the higher vibration. The Andromedan Avalon, who is channeled on GFL station. I watched a little bit of a video that in which he says this particular one is so huge and powerful for humanity because we are going through the ascension, because we are on such a rapid path of expansion. This portal, if you use it consciously and with intention, you can use it to rise and clarify and purify your true soul's truth and joy and creativity even more rapidly. And that's what I want to talk with you about particularly. Think of it, 8, the figure 8, as I'm drawing it with my finger. I'm not going to talk about this as the energy of eights in, for instance, numerology, or eights in the tarot deck, which is all really valid information. I want to talk about the actual figure 8, 8/8, August 8th. The figure 8, of course, as one of the attendees of my of the live spirit talk I did last Sunday, as she brought up, that's the infinity sign. Well, yes, indeed it is. Infinity, infinite possibility, unlimited creative ability. Everything is available to you. So it is very much the sign of our divine consciousness, our divine source consciousness, of which we are each an expression. The figure 8 symbol itself is useful as a healing frequency or energy, as I was taught it through my matrix energetics seminars in my training when I was becoming a practitioner. That the healing frequency 8, as presented in matrix energetics, has to do with integration. Well, yes, indeed. And doesn't that make sense? Look at the motion. If you were stirring a cake batter, wouldn't you be, or paint, you would be integrating the ingredients. You would be integrating the ingredients into a whole cake batter, or you would be stirring the color of the paint and having it be integrated as a whole. Think of that very same motion reversed, which energetically we can use it that way, as all energetic work is like that. You can use an energy, or you can use its opposite if it's needed for healing and transformation. So the opposite would be disintegrating. Now, that sounds like a bad word. It's not a bad word. Disintegrating, loosening up, stirring up what is stuck in there, what kind of maybe fell to the bottom and fell out of our attention, but is in there affecting everything, but it's needs to be brought to the surface so it can be purified out. And so that's what this is about. It's our opportunity to really let ourselves purify anything that is not light and love, that is not our soul's truth, what is not our heart's true joy and creativity. We each have the divine creativity within us, and it's channeled through the lens of each of our individual perspectives and abilities and interests and talents. So this is about loosening up and letting rise to the surface where we can see it and release it, anything that is an obstacle or an obstruction in our true flow, our authentic flow of true creativity and joy, our divine true soul self. This is about starting to become very clear of what doesn't feel good. And not good as in versus bad, but what doesn't feel right, what doesn't feel congruent with our energy. It's all about tuning in a very clear way to what feels good to us in our life, to have in our life, what feels like our individual creative enjoyment versus things that we think we should be doing, or that we expect of ourselves, or that we think the world has been expecting of us. That's all old paradigm. This is our opportunity with intention. Since we know it, what we can do is we can give ourselves to the purifying energy connoted by that figure 8. What is not our soul's truth and joy and creativity, let it come to the surface where we can see it and release it, and more focus on what does, again, feel good. What feels like, yeah, things are really flowing. It purifies out the obstacles so that you can flow in your true, authentic pattern of potentials, unobstructed. I often think of like having a dead fly in your glass of champagne. That doesn't belong in there. Or having a dead fly in the whipped cream on your strawberries. That does not belong there. So it's purifying out, as in a voluntary welcome releasing of anything that isn't your true soul's being. You start becoming very clear about who and what you really are. Again, what really feels good to you, what doesn't belong in your life. You start focusing on giving yourself everything that does feel enjoyable. And I mean little tiny things to the biggest things. Anything you could look around and just go, I love that. I love that I thought of putting that rug there. I love that I missed my turn to go somewhere that I know perfectly well how to go. And then it turned out that when I drove past where I thought I was going, oh, exactly what I needed was down there. And I'm so glad that happened. That's all flow. You start giving yourself permission to know what feels good and to accept it for yourself, to give it to yourself. And we will talk about that more here in a moment. So purifying out the obstructions in your own pattern of belief and thought and emotion and expectation frees you up to, again, be in your authentic flow of joy and creativity, your soul's truth. We are, as a species and as individuals, uplifting constantly on an ever accelerated pace, whereas things used to take, decades and centuries and slogging through wet sand to learn anything. Now we're just shedding anything that doesn't fit that joy and creativity and truth of our being. We're just shedding and letting it go. We're seeing it, releasing it, and we're letting it go. This doesn't have to be hard. You don't have to work at it. Seeing something and becoming aware of it as what it is, a belief, an expectation based in the old paradigm, don't need that anymore. You can just simply release it. And again, that's how to use this Lionsgate portal to its optimal value, agreeing to let yourself release anything that doesn't belong in your energetic field anymore. We're literally moving from one version of our species of consciousness, the human species of consciousness, to a higher version of what human consciousness is. So it's still the species of human consciousness, but there's different levels, and we're shifting into a different, higher, more source love-based level. And knowing all that, from now on, anything that comes up in your life that appears like a challenge or gives you some emotional discomfort, or you have memories or experiences with someone, none of that is something wrong, or I'm going backwards, or I'm not doing the ascension right, or anything. Every single thing that comes up from now on that is in any way not that joyful flow and everything just flowing wonderfully for you is coming up so that you can see where you are in your own way, where you have a fly in your whipped cream or your champagne still. Every single thing that comes up that feels difficult is your opportunity to agree to let that be seen, let it be felt, let it rise up to the surface so that you can see it and release it with love. And getting back to the clarity that comes with this gentle purification as you're disintegrating things, the flies in the ointment that don't belong there anymore. So much more clarity about who and what you are, who and what the world is, and what you now want to co-create it to be, what you want to experience, again, what feels good to you, not only in your own life, but to see around you in the world. It's being led by what feels good to you, joyful and creative and true to you. There's a crystalline clarity that starts happening where you're no longer down sort of in the muck, in the fog, trying to sort of going through the weeds, trying to figure things out, but you can't see anything, and you hit this and you hit that and you don't know what's going on. You lift out of that. And that's what we're doing right now. We're purifying, not purifying as in getting rid of what's bad. That's not it. It's releasing anything that is not of the highest vibration, the light, the love, the joy, the creativity, the abundance that is our birthright, that is what we are and what we have access to as source. I will touch on a couple of the major aspects of the astrological reflections in the heavens right now, of what we're experiencing and how things are showing up on the planet in events that we're seeing around us and in natural events as well. But before I do, what really wants to be talked about next would be, of course, receivership, accepting the abundance of the universe. The universe is abundant. Infinite possibility, infinite resource. There are no limits to what the universal energy and mind has available. And it will answer and provide abundantly whatever we ask for, whether it's the things that feel good, what we need to take care of ourselves and our most joyful creative life, or some trauma, some drama, some lessons, some I don't deserve, I can't have that. It's possible for other people, but not for me. In other words, whatever you're asking for, the universe will abundantly provide at all times. But I think receiving and accepting our good, our abundance, is very often thought of as, well, okay, I'll say I'm ready to receive, but we'll see if something comes. We'll see how much comes. We'll see if I'm granted what I thought I wanted. We'll see what I deserve to have, as if it's coming from somewhere else. What I want to share with you and what I want you to really feel and let infuse into your energetic understanding and field today is that we are source. We are the universe. The universe is abundant. We are it. We are the gatekeeper of our own abundance. The abundance is right there of whatever we ask for. And if we're asking for our good, we are the ones that have the power to open the gate. Oh, the flood of abundance is going to come. It's there. That's not even a question. It's our decision to open the gate and let it in. Does that make sense? We are the gatekeeper. So it's not a passive thing. I'll just open here and see what I get. It's an action. It is a decision. It is a permission to finally give yourself your good and let it flow in. And I'm seeing handle. Let in the ability to be riding on a new higher wave and be able to handle having your good and the abundance you need, which is not just financial, of course. It's an abundance of enjoyment in your life. It's an abundance of being able to provide for your emotional needs. It's an abundance of having time to do the things you enjoy, not just things you have to do. It's about finding things that even if you have to do them, that they are your joy, like work or taking care of your children. It's about allowing in the abundance of you being in that flow. I call it the golden flow of your authentic potentials. You just flowing in what feels wonderful and true for you. So to put it another way, as we become more aware and higher in our consciousness, expanded in our consciousness, we become aware that we are the ones that give ourselves permission to receive our good and to live it and to enjoy it and create with it. That it is an intentional act to open to the goods. It is not passive. It is an action. It is a decision to open your floodgate and accept to receive the flow of your good and the flow of divine inspiration to what is your good and your flow of being able to ride your current of grace. That's experiencing your grace. So receivership is not just this passive, oh, okay, I'll open up and see what comes my way. We'll see what I'm given, as if it's coming from someone or something else that decides what you get. It is an action. It's a decision. It's a choice. I am the abundant universe. I open the floodgates and allow in, by choice, by decision, allow in my good. I accept my good to come in, and I accept the ability to handle it and ride on this higher wave of vibration and flow of being as an individual expression of source consciousness. I do want to hear your comments, your questions, your thoughts about it. So I hope the way I put that made sense. I felt like I was having trouble articulating that feeling of, wait a minute, it's my flow. It's my dam. All my abundance is right there. I'm right here. I'm the one that gets to say, okay, and I'm opening up the floodgate to receive everything that is mine because I'm source, and I am source expressing through this individualized perspective, and I am creating in joy and love what I can through this individualized perspective. So going back to a little bit of the astrology, there's so much going on in the heavens and on our planet. I just want to touch on a couple of things. We are receiving now so much direct, high frequency cosmic information and light codes from the cosmos, not just from our solar sun. And again, we are upgrading at a rapid pace, an accelerated pace. And we are receiving help with that from our universal source, which would include our multidimensional self, which would include higher dimensional consciousnesses and guides and angels and benevolent high vibrational ETs like the Arcturians, the Pleiadians. So we're receiving lots of help. And the reason we are is because the entire cosmos is ascending. So all parts are ascending. And so it benefits all parts of the whole to help all parts of the whole. There are a lot of things going on astrologically. There are so many planetary alignments, all the outer planets have gone into new signs, and those are the ones, they stay in those signs for a very long time, and they represent platform energies that the consciousness of the species is working from. So huge changes and world history events tend to happen when outer planets go into new signs. They're all aligned. I can't go into the alignments and all the aspects. It's just overwhelming how much is going on with that. But a couple of important things, and then I'll recommend a couple of channels for you. So Saturn and Neptune are in Aries, and they're conjunct. And briefly, Saturn represents structure, boundary, which can be very good in defining, making distinctions between this and that type of energy, or defining how to bring an idea forth, for instance, into the physical. Of course, a structure and boundary can also become limiting and make things difficult. It's conjunct Neptune. Neptune is water. Everything is all one. There is no boundary. There is no structure. They're very opposite energies. They are conjunct. They're activating each other and interacting with each other. And what does that mean? On a planetary and species-wide level, we're working with the dynamics of both bringing structure to what was very unstructured and infinite possibility and all things possible and infinite potential, but no way to use that and channel it. We're bringing some structure to that. But we're also bringing breaking down of structure and just flowing into infinite possibility. Neptune breaking down that structure of Saturn so that structures and ideas that we had in place, again, individually and as a species and cultures, things that were set structures and how things were, are being disintegrated, and new possibilities and opportunities and potentials are being given a structured pathway to materialize in our world through Saturn acting on that Neptune energy. We're seeing it individually in our own lives, and we're seeing it play out on the world stage. Systems and structures are breaking down. They're not holding up anymore. New systems are being put into place and will continue to be put into place. You may notice it in some way in your own life. I just had a direct experience with this. As long as I've been doing transformational work and have a way that I work that's very, very flexible in any case, all of a sudden for a couple of days, I didn't have anything. I couldn't do sessions for a couple of days. There was no structure. I don't even know how to explain it. But the structure that I'd had kind of just became this amorphic field of understanding, but nothing clarified in the way that I could actually apply it and use it in the physical life. And then that changed, and all kinds of clarity is coming up for me, not only in how I work in my practice, but just in life. Clarity of, and this is how I can do this, and this is how I want to do this. This is what does feel good and enjoyable to me. This is what doesn't feel so authentic to me anymore. It's just such clarity. So give some thought to how you're seeing and feeling that in your own life. You will see it. Structure's breaking down, but new ways of structuring and organizing things for yourself and understanding them coming up. You could see job situations change, career situations change, relationships change, friendships change, come and go, things that you used to be interested in but hadn't picked up in a while. Now all of a sudden it feels like it's time to pick those up. That's bringing energetic potentials out into the physical, where you can materialize and experience it based on your authentic soul's truth, and a dissolving of any structures that maybe were very useful for a while or for a long time, but are no longer useful. They become a boundary. They become a limitation instead of a help. So that dynamic is very much going on. And again, those planets are conjunct in Aries, which is the primal fire sign, energy, opportunity, just raw potential, sort of exploding out. And you're seeing fires all over the planet where you wouldn't even normally have fires. So the stability and structure of the Earth's crust, with fire, the volcanoes, and being cracked and shaken. There are earthquakes all over the place now. And crazy floods where we wouldn't ever normally see them. That's that Neptune, that's that water. Floods coming up in Europe, in Spain, and France, in all kinds of places they would never have floods. Even the upper East Coast, like Maryland and Pennsylvania, they don't see flash floods. Now they are. So that, to a large extent, reflects that water structure dynamic in Aries, the fire, the explosive potential, pure energy. Another really important planetary reflection of our consciousness is, as we all know, Pluto has gone into Aquarius, and Pluto is the planet of deep transformation. It's power. It empowers whatever it touches, and it also exposes any sort of corruption or misuse of what it touches. So Pluto has gone into Aquarius, which is rebellion, revolution, power to the people, fairness. It has to do with technologies. So we're seeing a lot of empowerment to those areas, and that's conjunct Uranus in Gemini. Uranus is the bolt out of the blue, sudden, what I call the sudden left turn. It just is bolt out of the blue, unforeseen, unplanned, very, very fast, energetic action. And it's in Gemini, and Gemini is an air sign. It's very quick. It's all about information, information technology, information traveling, things being revealed. That's why so much is coming out and being revealed, as we all said it would. You know, at the government level, what's going on around the world, what's going on in politics, just all kinds of corruptions being revealed. And Pluto, if you'll remember, is the god of the underworld, right? Under the Earth's crust. And Uranus is the sky god. So again, you have this dynamic of disruption and a trading of information between underworld and the sky, material and spiritual. So there is a lot of literal upheaval going on right now. I do want to point out that the way we're experiencing these upheavals is much gentler than it could have been and was going to be. As I and others have said for a long time, we're on ever higher and higher timelines. We don't need to experience mass apocalyptic suffering and punishment. That's not where we are. We're seeing the upheavals, but look, we just had that major earthquake off of Kamchatka in Russia. That it was an 8.8 and it was shallow. That's the kind of earthquake that can generate devastating tsunamis. Yeah, it did some damage in Russia, not too much because those areas aren't really populated. And then for whatever reason, yeah, it gave some higher wave heights around the Pacific coast of the US and in Hawaii, a little bit in Alaska. It didn't do hardly any damage, and certainly not major damage. Expect to see these upheavals in the natural world, in our weather, and in the planetary crust, but don't expect that it has to mean horrible devastation and death and destruction and suffering. It can be much gentler. And I love that the Arcturian entity Tia that is channeled and is featured on the GFL station. She's the one on that station that I really, really like. Everything she channels rings just exactly right with my soul's truth as I hold it. She brought up that yes, Yellowstone is more active, but that it's not going to be this big cataclysm that blows the continent apart because we've raised above that. Things can just be gentler. And I'll bring that back to something I've said in another video. I couldn't tell you which one, but there are bleed throughs of events. There are multiple probable versions of events, meaning that the energy of an event will show up differently at different levels of intensity and in different ways in different possible timelines. So yes, I don't doubt for a minute that people saw horrible apocalyptic type things going on with the Earth's crust and people suffering and continents being rent in half and horrible destruction to the planet. I'm sure some people saw that and that was even a possibility on a timeline. But we're not on that timeline anymore, you guys, if we ever were. There's a timeline in which we can go, yeah, I see what the Earth is trying to tell me. I see what the energies are trying to tell me. I understand clearly. Got it. Understand the lesson. We don't need to suffer horribly and punish ourselves for being the sinful human race or whatever some people think. I have said that the reason we're seeing these huge weather disruptions and events is because that's where our consciousness is and our emotion is. My teacher, Seth, had said the weather is directly related to our emotion, to our energetic fields and our emotions. And so I've said that as we become clearer and in a higher vibration, and in more soul's truth and absolute well-being, these weather events will calm down and tone down. Tia said something just like that in regards to Yellowstone. She said, our consciousness is raising and has raised high enough now to where we don't need it to be this cataclysmic destructive event. It's okay for it to be a lesser version of that because our consciousness is raising. And as we raise our consciousness, we don't need these events to be so big and destructive. As far as learning more about the astrology, because there are so many aspects and sextiles and trines and all kinds of things going on in the astrology, you might want to visit World Astrology Report, or Pam Gregory is an excellent astrologer. But you can type in astrology 2025 and you can sort of tell who's peddling sensationalism and who's going to really talk to you about where the planets are and what they signify and how their energies interacting could show up in our physical world. I did talk more about these and some other subjects in the spirit talk I did last Sunday. We talked about how all healing is ultimately quantum. We talked about emotions and how when we release emotions, we need to also release the beliefs that are generating the emotions. That's a big one. And more about what action is and what taking action means as we move into this new paradigm of energy and awareness and intention and spirituality. Action starts meaning something different than it did in our old paradigm. I talk about all of that in last Sunday's Spirit Talk. It was a nice interactive. We had several people attending and we had a nice interaction with some good questions and comments in there. You can watch it back if you are a paid Patreon member on my Patreon page. Memberships start as low as $2. If you join my Patreon group at any membership level, you are not only supporting my work and this channel, you are automatically registered to attend those spirit talks. You will automatically receive a recording of those spirit talks, and you will have full access to my growing library of past recorded spirit talks so that you could watch last Sunday's back. So anyway, thank you for joining me today. Love and blessings to you all, beloveds.